Okay, so this is the only lecture for this unit on the American Revolution, and I just want to make sure you have some very specific information. This will be on your quiz this Thursday, and there's a note sheet posted in Google Classroom titled The Revolutionary War that goes along with this lecture. So this is a picture of George Washington right here, crossing the Delaware. This happened at the Battle of Trenton in New Jersey. We won't talk specifically about this, but if you want to research this image and turn it in to me by Friday, you can earn some extra credit. Here's a picture of George Washington. He is going to become our nation's first president. So he is, what you need to know is that he is the commander of the Continental Army. The Continental Army was the Americans and the Patriots, the colonists who lived in the North American colonies. So George Washington led their army. The next person you need to know is Benjamin Franklin. You need to know that he was an inventor, printer, scientist, and philosopher. He is responsible for creating that Join or Die cartoon we looked at last week, and he's going to be an ambassador to France during the Revolutionary War. So the Patriots had the Sons of Liberty, which was Sam Adams, John Adams, and they were very heavily outspoken against the British, but there was also the Daughters of Liberty. They were formed to protest taxes, specifically the Townshend Acts, and they supported the troops during the war. The British Army was either called Redcoats or Lobster Backs because of their red coats that they wore. Charles Cornwallis was the main commander of the British Army. So here's a picture of a skirmish or between the Patriots and the Redcoats. Okay, so during the Boston Massacre, Crispus Attucks was the first black man to be shot in the Revolutionary War. They're saying he's the first casualty of the Revolutionary War. It's important to note that African Americans fought for both sides in an attempt to gain their freedom. So they fought for the Patriots and they fought for the Redcoats because they felt that whoever won, if they helped them, that they would be given their freedom. This was not the case at the end of the war. More than 20,000 African Americans fought for the British cause. Another group that fought for the British cause were the Hessians. The Hessians are German mercenaries. On the next slide, I'm going to tell you what a mercenary is. But after the war, this many went back to Germany. Some of them died from fighting, some of them stayed in North America, and some of them died from illness. They did fight with the British to earn money. So they were a British ally. A mercenary is a paid soldier who serves in the army of a foreign country. So these German mercenaries were paid by the British to help them fight the Patriots. So strengths and weaknesses of the Continental, that's the Patriots, and the British armies. So you guys read about this on Friday, and you guys have your own chart that looks like this, but just to review some things. The Patriot side first, the Continental Army. There was strong military leadership. Soldiers were fighting for a cause they believed in. They were fighting on a home territory. The weaknesses of the Continental Army were they were small, untrained military. There was shortage of resources. And there was a weak central government. So the colonists didn't really have a strong government going into the war. They had the Continental Congresses, but it wasn't anything that could make decisions about the war. The British Army was well trained. They had ample resources, and they had alliances with the Native Americans, colonial loyalists, and some American enslaved Africans. Their weaknesses were they were fighting in unfamiliar territory, they were far from home, and soldiers were fighting for a cause they didn't necessarily believe in. So one of the strongest things going for the Patriots and the Continental Army is that they really wanted to get rid of King George III and the British government. So they were fighting for a cause they all believed in. So they had more of a will to win. The British Army was just fighting to stop it. So here's another picture painting of the war. So let's review American advantages. They used guerrilla warfare tactics where they would like hit and run and hide in trees. They fought on their own territory, so they knew the land. They had shorter supply lines, so their supplies were close by. They were already in the colonies. They didn't have to ship their supplies across the ocean. They fought for a cause they believed in. And France and Spain became their allies. So France and Spain started fighting with the colonists to help them. The Battle of Bunker Hill is the first official battle, or I guess technically the second battle of the American Revolution. Lexington and Concord happened. It was called the Shot Heard Around the World. And then you have the Battle of Bunker Hill. So this is the picture I showed you guys last week in class with the tower that looked like the Washington Monument. That's where it took place. So it happened on June 16, 1775. British troops attacked Americans at Bunker Hill near Boston. So it's across a waterway. It's not actually in Boston. The Americans there's a rumor that they said, don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes, which meant that they didn't want them shooting their weapons unless they could see the redcoat so well that they could see the whites of their eyes. The British won the battle but lost many soldiers. So some strengths or advantages for the British were they had a better trained and larger navy. There was more money and more supplies. Native Americans became allies with the British because they thought the British would help protect their land. So then once again, here's the image of George Washington crossing the Delaware. You can look up this image for extra credit if you bring in an explanation of what it is by Friday. So the final battle you need to know is the Battle of Saratoga. This is the second battle you need to know. So you need to know that Lexington and Concord was the first battle of the American Revolution. You need to know that Saratoga was the turning point, and because of the victory, the French become America's greatest allies. So this is where the war starts to turn. The British aren't winning as much, and the Americans start to win. Yorktown is going to become the last battle of the American Revolution. So the Washington and the Americans defeated the British in Cornwallis at the Battle of Yorktown. The war continued for 2 more years, but this was the last major battle of the war. The king agreed to American independence after this battle. Even though there was battles for many years after that, this was the final battle that got King George III to agree to American independence. Okay, so after the war, the Americans now were able to move into this light green piece of land. This is the Ohio River Valley that they were not previously allowed to move into because of the Proclamation of 1763. So now they've won the American Revolution, and they get all of this land up until the Mississippi River. That is all you need to know for the American Revolution. Hopefully your note sheet is all filled out, and I will see you in class.